It's 4:47 in the morning on Sunday, February 22nd, 2026. In the mountain town of Tapalpa, Jalisco, Mexico, a place known for pine forests, colonial churches, and weekend tourists from Guadalajara, a 59-year-old man is sleeping. He's been sleeping in places like this for years, remote, quiet, off every grid that matters, moving between safe houses in the highlands of Jalisco the way a ghost moves, without leaving footprints, without triggering alarms, without appearing on a single verified photograph taken in the last 2 decades. Outside, the darkness is broken by something the locals have never seen here before. Military vehicles, dozens of them, moving without headlights up the mountain roads, and above, barely audible at first, then unmistakable, helicopters. Not one, multiple, circling. The Mexican army has found him. And by the time the sun rises fully over Jalisco this morning, the most powerful, most wanted, most feared drug lord on the planet will be dead. His name, the one his enemies whispered and his soldiers screamed, was El Mencho. This is the story of his last day, minute by minute, decision by decision, and the inferno it left behind. Part 1. How they found him. To understand why this morning exists, you need 60 seconds of history. For over a decade, El Mencho had been the white whale of global law enforcement. The DEA called him their #1 priority. The US put a $15 million bounty on his head, the largest reward ever offered for a living cartel leader. Interpol wanted him. The Mexican military had been hunting him since 2015, when his cartel shot down a military helicopter with an RPG and killed 8 soldiers. Not ambushed them, shot down their helicopter. And for all of that, all the intelligence, all the resources, all the pressure, nobody could touch him. He had gone completely dark. No verified photos since the early 2000s, no smartphones, no public appearances. He lived in the mountain terrain of Jalisco, surrounded by a web of local informants who would alert him to any approaching threat before it got within 10 kilometers. When his rivals tried to claim he was already dead from kidney failure in 2022, he didn't hold a press conference to deny it. He just kept breathing and let the violence speak for him. But something shifted in the final months of 2025. The Trump administration had designated CJNG as a foreign terrorist organization in February of that year, a legal reclassification that unlocked a completely different level of intelligence cooperation between Washington and Mexico City. The Joint Interagency Task Force, operating through U.S. Northern Command, began sharing real-time signals intelligence with Mexican military counterparts at a depth that hadn't existed before. Human intelligence assets inside CJNG, people who had been cultivated for years, began producing actionable information about El Mencho's actual location for the first time. He had become complacent, not reckless, but fractionally less paranoid than he needed to be, given the new level of surveillance being turned against him. His kidney condition, which had required a private medical facility his cartel literally built for him in rural Jalisco, was forcing him to stay in certain areas, limiting his range of movement. The net didn't close dramatically. It closed slowly, methodically, over weeks, and it closed on Tapalpa. By Saturday evening, February 21st, Mexican military commanders, in coordination with American intelligence, had high confidence, not certainty, confidence that El Mencho was in a specific structure in the mountains above Tapalpa. The operation was greenlit at the highest levels of Mexico's government. President Claudia Sheinbaum was informed. The order was given. Move before dawn, move fast. The mission: arrest him alive. Part 2. The Last Hours. It's just after midnight on February 22nd. The convoy begins assembling outside Guadalajara, 90 kilometers north of Tapalpa. Special forces units from CJNG, Mexico's defense ministry, intelligence officers, federal police liaison. The convoy moves south in darkness, lights off on the mountain roads, radio silence except for encrypted channels.
Inside the safe house in Tapalpa, El Mencho's security detail, a rotating team of between 8 and 12 armed operatives, has no idea what's moving toward them. Whatever early warning system he had relied on for years, his network of local eyes, his informants on mountain roads, either failed him tonight or was already compromised by the intelligence operation. At approximately 4:45 a.m., the military cordon is in position. Helicopters are holding position in the dark above the ridgeline, waiting. The ground units move in. What happens next takes less than 3 minutes. According to Mexico's Defense Ministry official account, CJNG operatives inside the compound detect the approaching soldiers and open fire first, immediately, no hesitation, which tells you these men were trained for exactly this contingency. They knew that if the military ever came for El Mencho, their job was to buy him time to escape or to die fighting. There was no version of this scenario where they put up their hands. The soldiers return fire. In the firefight that follows, 4 CJNG operatives are killed at the scene. 3 more are critically wounded. One of them is El Mencho himself. 2 are captured alive. The compound is secured. On the ground, inside and around the structure, armored vehicles, rocket-propelled grenade launchers, assault rifles, thousands of rounds of ammunition. 3 Mexican soldiers are wounded. None are killed in the immediate engagement. The convoy commander calls it in. El Mencho is alive but critically wounded, multiple gunshot wounds. The decision comes down from command. Airlift him to Mexico City. Keep him alive. There are things this man knows that are worth more than a body. A military helicopter is brought in. El Mencho, the man with $15 million on his head, the man whose cartel earned $50 billion in estimated assets, the man who had hidden in these mountains for years, is loaded onto it. He never reaches Mexico City. Nemesio Ruben Oseguero Cervantes dies from his wounds somewhere over Jalisco. He is 59 years old. The time of death is confirmed at 7:23 a.m. local time. The most powerful drug lord in the world dies on a military helicopter over the mountains he had called home, bleeding out before anyone can stop it. Part 3. The call goes out. Word travels fast inside criminal organizations, faster than any official announcement, faster than any press conference. Within 90 minutes of El Mencho's death, before Mexico's defense ministry has said a single word publicly, CJNG's internal communications network is already activating. Regional commanders are being notified. Orders are going out. Not orders to mourn, orders to act. Because El Mencho had prepared for this. Somewhere in the operational structure of CJNG, a contingency plan existed. Call it what you want. A dead man's switch, a final command, a standing order. If El Mencho fell, the organization would not go quiet. It would not retreat. It would not negotiate. It would detonate. By 9 a.m. on February 22nd, the first narco blockades appear on highways around Guadalajara. Burning vehicles dragged across lanes, civilian trucks torched and abandoned sideways on major roads, armed men in balaclavas stopping traffic and ordering drivers out of their vehicles. By 10 a.m., it has spread to 3 states. By noon, 20 states simultaneously. Think about that number. Mexico has 32 states. The CJNG just activated coordinated blockades and attacks in 20 of them within hours of their leader's death. This is not grief. This is a military organization executing a pre-planned protocol with the discipline El Mencho himself had spent 15 years building into them. In Puerto Vallarta, one of Mexico's most visited beach destinations, packed with American and Canadian tourists on a February weekend, the city collapses into chaos. Gunfire echoes near hotel zones. Black smoke rises from multiple points across the city. A Costco is set on fire. Prison breaks are reported. An American tourist named Yoni Pitzer, who had booked a whale-watching excursion for this morning, finds his car surrounded by armed CJNG members, hauled out at gunpoint, his vehicle torched and pushed across the road as a blockade. He survives. His whale-watching trip does not. In Guadalajara itself, 5 million people, the streets go silent. A city that never fully stops, that runs 24 hours on commerce and nightlife and restaurants, becomes a ghost town by midday. Military personnel ring the international airport. Narco blockades appear on the same avenues where weekend markets were operating just hours earlier. Security Secretary Omar Garcia Harfuch, the same man the CJNG tried to assassinate in 2020, ambushing his convoy with 200 gunmen, 19 RPGs, and a Barrett 50 caliber sniper rifle, leaving him with 3 bullet wounds and the absolute personal conviction to destroy this organization, confirms from a podium in Mexico City what happened in Tapalpa. He is visibly composed. He has waited 6 years for this moment. But even as he speaks, his own forces are being hit.
In Jalisco alone, across 6 separate simultaneous attacks, 25 members of Mexico's National Guard are killed. Not ambushed in ones and twos, 6 coordinated military-style assaults on government forces executed at the same time across the same state on the same Sunday morning. These attacks had been planned. The locations had been scouted. The units had been positioned before El Mencho died, waiting only for the signal. By nightfall on February 22nd, the total picture is almost incomprehensible. 8 CJNG members killed in the Tapalpa operation. 25 National Guard soldiers killed in retaliatory attacks across Jalisco. Blockades burning in 20 states. Puerto Vallarta under siege. The U.S. State Department issuing emergency travel advisories for Americans in Jalisco, Michoacán, Tamaulipas, Guerrero, and Nuevo León. President Claudia Sheinbaum goes on national television and tells her country to remain calm. Outside her window, Mexico is on fire. Part 4. The morning after. Who rules now? By Monday morning, February 23rd, the immediate violence is beginning to ebb, not because CJNG has given up, but because the initial protocol has been executed. The message has been sent. Now comes the harder question, the one that will define Mexico's security landscape for the next several years. Who leads CJNG? El Mencho had no clean air. His son, El Menchito, is sitting in a U.S. federal prison serving life plus 30 years, sentenced in March 2025. His daughter, La Negra, is legally compromised and publicly exposed. His brother, El Toro, arrested by Mexican authorities in February 2025, still in custody. 4 names are moving through intelligence circles. El Pelón, his stepson, Juan Carlos Valencia Gonzalez, described by American intelligence as the de facto number 2. He has the family bloodline and a $5 million U.S. bounty, but cartel commanders who've bled for this organization on the ground don't automatically follow a man because of his last name. El Jardinero, Audias Flores Silva, the organizer, the man who built CJNG's franchise model across Mexico, turning local criminal groups into CJNG subsidiaries state by state. His leadership would mean a more federated cartel, less centralized, harder to decapitate, but also harder to coordinate. El Doble, Ricardo Ruiz Velasco, the warfighter, runs CJNG's elite armed operations in Jalisco. In a moment of transition and threatened fragmentation, the man the fighters respect is often the man who ends up in charge. El Sapo, Gonzalo Mendoza Gaitan, controls the fentanyl supply chain, the precursor chemicals from China, the lab networks, the distribution pipelines. There are unconfirmed reports he may have been present in Tapalpa and killed in the same operation. If that's true, CJNG lost its leader and its chief chemist on the same morning. 3 futures are possible. A negotiated succession where commanders reach consensus and the cartel stabilizes. Dangerous for law enforcement because a functional $50 billion CJNG is still a $50 billion CJNG. A fragmentation into regional fiefdoms, more locally violent, nationally less coordinated. Or a full internal war,
Factions turning on each other, defections multiplying, civilians caught between competing armed groups all claiming the CJNG name. History says the internal war is most likely in the short term, and history also says that's when civilians suffer most. The last day of El Mencho began before dawn in a mountain town with pine trees and colonial churches. It ended in fire across 20 states, 25 soldiers dead, a country holding its breath, and a $50 billion criminal empire suddenly without its architect. CJNG is not dead. The labs are still running. The money is still moving. The fentanyl is still crossing into the United States. The cartel will find a new name to follow, or it will fracture, and the pieces will be more dangerous than the whole. Somewhere in Jalisco tonight, the meeting is already happening. The last day of El Mencho was February 22, 2026. The first day of what comes next started February 23rd.